Jeff, the silence of the courtroom's audience was broken this afternoon by sighs of relief and sobs from the family and friends of Marsha Brown. Here in Murfreesboro, many residents believe the 8-mile drive to Carbondale, which is more than 3 times the size, is worth the extra shopping options. And that's why some of them believe that they have the right to ask for those tax dollars back.
Well, Kathy, obviously, Carbondale police are putting a lot of resources into finding the 2 suspects who are still at large.
Now, that snowfall may affect your morning commute to work and school. Before swiping your card, just taking a little bit of a tug at the card reader just to make sure it's secure. Significant amounts of damage, but the folks I spoke to say everyone is accounted for, and to their knowledge, there were not any serious injuries. He was swept about a half-mile through the Whitewater Rapids in the middle of the night before the sheriff believes he was thrown over the Jackson Falls more than 30 feet to the bottom.
For just one of these tomatoes, it takes 3.3 gallons of water to grow.
34-ounce bottle of cola. Now, if this bill is passed, this 34-ounce bottle will cost a full 34 cents more.
And this came here, I'm trying to pop one of those balloons over there and hopefully win a stuffed monkey or something.
This move will save the university hundreds of thousands of dollars. Live local now from a moving bus. Loreto Cruz, Heartland News.
If it weren't for him, I probably would have never cast the line.
Main rattle trap collection.
Forget a tackle box. These guys have upgraded to cases.
You know, this sounds kind of weird, but he's playing with the big boys. That's just one of many that he's got.
And cases.
Some of the big names.
And
famous names.
Just look at all these cases.
There's no telling. I never have counted them all, but I know I kept an inventory on them, and I was up around 15,000 the last count. That's in my collection. That's not counting Will's stuff.
Well, everybody in my family's always fished, so I just kind of got into it.
Since he started fishing for fishing lures when he was 4, Will, also known as Spike Yoakum, has amassed the single largest collection of a certain type of rattle trap fishing lures in the world and has a Guinness World Record award to prove it.
What did it take? What did you have to do to make this happen?
I would say a lot of it would be time, effort, and patience.
He's got a ton of them. We've done a lot of road tripping and running and digging and scratching to find them.
Grandfather and grand champion fisherman Fred Washburn says Will willed himself into greatness from the get-go.
He became quite the collector, and he's been following me. He wanted to collect this stuff. He'd go to the shows with us. When he would go, he was in a stroller.
There for a while, I was getting 50, 60 different rattle traps from a show or 2 because people were giving them to me for my collection.
For now, they're trying to find a place to put all the lures, including the new additions to the collection. But as far as what's around the bend,
who knows? He might decide to start collecting girls or something later on. But right now, it's keeping him out of trouble, gives him something to do.
I would like to start a fishing career. I'd like to become a fishing pro. And I'd like to continue what my grandpa started.
Live, local, late breaking, Loreto Cruz, Heartland News.
Tuesday night, just after 9 o'clock.
They threatened her, placed a gun in her face, demanding money.
Marion PD advised one suspect, an armed robbery, IGA, may possibly have an orange hoodie with earphones.
As many as 4 employees of this grocery store in Marion were met with 2 very unwelcome guests.
Looked like they were closing down or doing what they were supposed to be doing, and then, 2 men just jumped over the counter.
2 black males, both with long hair, one wearing a red hoodie, one wearing a black hoodie.
Looked like one of them had a gun in his hand, just, waving it in people's faces and, waving it at the workers' faces. And I was just totally blown away.
One of the store's clerks ended up looking down the barrel of a handgun. She dropped the phone, put her hands up, and did her best to remain calm.
It's kind of scary, kind of thinking about it. What if one of us or, even our daughter was in there? What's a person to do? They need to give them what they want. The store has insurance. Nothing's worth dying for there.
After the coast was clear, police were called and more than a dozen patrol cars were at the scene within minutes.
Our first concern is everybody's safety. Once we figured out everybody's safe, then we can start looking for the bad guys.
County did. They believe they're out of the store now. They're left northbound from Baroviac IGA.
A Marion search dog tracked down one of the suspects and officers recovered the cash
And the only injuries reported Tuesday night were dog bites from a Marion K-9 unit to both suspects.
She didn't fight them. She gave them what they wanted, and then as they left the store. Anything that would lead to fighting them, trying to stop them, could lead to being injured or possibly dying.
Meet Tim Grigsby and Mark Williams.
I mean, he's part of our family.
They've been busy in the past week, mainly organizing letters from the community of West Frankfort.
I've known Carlos for approximately 10 years. We've done a lot of things together as far as fundraising. Some of the things that are popping up in these emails and letters of support, we had no idea the ways that he had reached out and touched so many different lives.
Carlos Pacheco, longtime manager of an area restaurant, also spent time raising money for various charities, organizing fundraisers and scholarships for local high school students.
He contributes to this community in so many ways that it's immeasurable. You couldn't measure it.
And in the long term, traveling back and forth to immigration offices in St. Louis and Chicago, fighting to gain legal status and American citizenship.
He's been trying to become a citizen for over 9 years.
Caught up in paperwork and guilty of a nearly decade-old DUI charge, which lawyers say he's already served time for. Pacheco was taken into custody by immigration authorities and is scheduled to see a judge March 1st to discuss his immigration status.
Immediately when we found out, we kind of Tim and I and some other of Carlos's friends started, put together a plan.
That plan to help convince officials to give back what many in West Frankfort call one of their favorite citizens.
Most of them said the same thing. They said, "We've been waiting for you to call so we know what to do," because he's just touched so many people that they were sitting on go.
They need recovery programs. They need help finding apartments and housing when they get out, jobs.
Fledgling pastor Dennis Ward says what drives him to step up is his past.
I had a meth addiction. I've about 6 years now clean. I know where these guys are coming from. I know what they've been through, and it's easier to help somebody that way.
Ward says the Recovery Church in Marion will offer counseling sessions, groups, and other services which he feels have been neglected during Illinois' budget stalemate.
There's a lot of the state programs that are being shut down because of the budget, and we hope to move in and fill some of the gaps where they're going to leave.
The future pastor of the Recovery Church says they're opening up to help out the clientele in Southern Illinois. Over at the state-funded Family Counseling Center, Director Sherry Crabb says the need for that help is definitely present.
The need is still there. No matter how you cut it, it's still there. And thank goodness for churches and private organizations that are willing to step up.
Joining the chorus of more than 350 other such agencies across the state, the Family Counseling Center has faced layoffs and reduced hours.
Instead, the voices that have cried out and said that we really need human services in our community, in a sense, is being ignored.
Long-term trajectories.
Crabb says Illinois Governor Bruce Rauner's budget address on Wednesday didn't show promise for state assistance.
With a mix of reform, cost reductions, and revenue, we must still fulfill our shared responsibility to enact a balanced budget.
He really didn't talk about social services whatsoever. I think that stood out. We may have to change what we're going to look like. We may have to change what that service array is. But I have full faith that the community needs us, our clients need us, so we're going to make a way.
Best feeling I've had in a long time. Just glad I was able to do it one more time. Let her go, Mike. All right.
63-year-old Marine Corps veteran Vernell Holderfield. A warrior, a family man, and a biker.
He's always been extremely free-spirited, regardless of any kind of medical condition he was in. You know, he was here in the VA not too long ago, and we weren't sure how he was going to make it through. And I came into his room, and the first thing he did was give me a fist bump.
To me, this is what honor and the veterans is about. You know, you come together, you're a brotherhood, and just celebrate the life of a fellow veteran.
You got that wind-blown hair look.
Diagnosed with a terminal respiratory condition, doctors say there isn't much time.
To get to ride the wind, you know, one more time before he passes. He's not doing well. and we come out to honor him and all as veterans and friends, just to ride with him one more time.
In recent weeks, Holderfield reminisced with nurses on the thousands of miles he'd spent on the open road. And when word got out, a crowd measured in the hundreds came together with an urge to follow his lead, his tailpipes, and his legacy.
There's something special about somebody getting to do their last wish, you know, something they love to do, whatever that is. His was getting on a motorcycle, so it was awesome to see him do that.
To be honest, it was kind of hard to keep my tears inside whenever we were watching all the bikes go by. I saw a lot of people with some very happy faces, some tears coming down. This means an absolute deal to him. It's been tremendous.
Very thankful. I thank the VA and everybody here for making it possible. That's what's the main thing, been making it happen for me.
Ready, KTV? My education is uncertain if WSIU loses that money.
Some things just can't be read in a textbook.
Lawmakers return to a continuing struggle over,
trust me,
$96 billion.
For 47 years, SIU has aired a live news broadcast on the area's public television station, giving countless broadcasters their start.
I attribute my early success in my career almost exclusively to what I got at Southern Illinois University through the education in the classroom and the hands-on experience with the student newscast. Feeling when you're getting around in the morning?
As students, you do everything. You run the broadcast, like you're directing, you're running the camera, you're producing the news, you're going out reporting on your own stories, you're making the news yourself as students on campus.
Numbers released Wednesday from SIU administrators would reduce hands-on learning opportunities for some of the 200 students currently running the show.
Pretty much everything's on the table. We just don't know what's going to happen right now. WSIU in particular is faced with almost $200,000 in cuts, and for a little public station in Southern Illinois, that's a heck of a lot of money.
Seem to let up right now.
The university hasn't received money from the state of Illinois in 9 months during the budget impasse, and numbers for next year would mean a 20% cut campus-wide.
River Region is probably like the only reason why I came to SIU. I hope there's collaboration on all fronts. It's collaboration between Ronner, collaboration between Madigan, collaboration between the Senate legislator and the House, whatever. I just hope they get something worked out and it's not politics that's holding this up.
Betty Walden and her husband have lived here on Horseshoe Lake for 22 years and say wet or dry, they're here to stay.
It just had a bad mold smell to it.
There's no hope.
And everything was wet and nasty.
2 weeks after her house was submerged,
you couldn't see much until you started to pull the carpet back and the soffit back, and then you could really tell that it was just bad, real bad.
Betty Walden returned home to find the soggy aftermath of the New Year flood held more questions than answers.
You know, is there a God?
We don't know where anything's at. It's probably out in the middle of the lake.
To Donnie Ray Hicks and nearly 24 volunteers from Harrisburg First Baptist Church, those questions are all too familiar.
How am I going to rebuild? I'm not going to have the money, this kind of thing.
I just wanted to give back to the people that helped me and help out my part and do what I can to help other people.
2012. That's when the Leap Day tornado killed 8 people in Harrisburg and left a path of devastation. In that path, Hicks's home, which was saved by a group of volunteers.
We're still working our way back.
People can just feel devastated by what's happened. They just need encouragement and a listening ear and to know that somebody cares.
After they finish this house, the work has only begun. I'm told that this is the first of roughly 50 work orders in Olive Branch alone.
Walden says she and her husband would have been lost without the help.
We want to stay here on the lake and enjoy the rest of our life if we can. It will be back to normal one of these days.